Coach will get us started, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Excited for the week. Obviously we were, like I said after the game, disappointed in the game against Florida. Never were able to get back in it after the early parts. Thought there were opportunities to. We got to take advantage of those opportunities, including the conversion on fourth down that we fumbled and had a chance there to take a lead, which I thought was a good point in the game for us to build some momentum. We had the stop on fourth down and 4, where we had a chance to tie the game. And then even after that, some opportunities there after the first stop in the second half to get back within a score. Never were able to do it. And so focusing on seizing those opportunities and still looking for a game where the 3 phases interlock and we play complementary. And it's very similar to where we were a year ago in that respect. I think our frustration, and there is frustration, is based off what our expectations were. And so right now we're just shifting focus back to improving our team and identifying the areas where we can push forward and play, build to a better performance on Saturday. Obviously, we do that this week against the best team in the country, and they're number 1 for a reason. There are not a lot of holes in this team. Georgia, they've done a great job there recruiting, and they do a great job coaching. And so that's a real challenge for us, but a great challenge. We're excited for it, and a great opportunity for us to go out and show a team that's continuing to improve and continuing to develop. To provide a little bit of update injury-wise, B.J. Anderson's still not going to be available. Jake Ketchick is returning to practice, so he's starting to do some individual. Hopefully we can get him back after the bye week, maybe for some availability to play. Dericky Wright is doubtful for the game. He's just been battling this ankle sprain, and he tried on Saturday, wasn't able to push through. I think maybe in his best interest just to try to build 2 weeks here, consecutive weeks to recover, in hopes to get him back after the bye. So right now he's doubtful. Martell Height, who wasn't able to finish the game, is questionable for Saturday. Grayson Morgan's returning, so he's not been available. He was able to practice today. He's feeling better. Questionable for Saturday. Jalen Mahoney is back. So I don't know if there's any others to ask about, but that's where we are. Happy to open up for questions. I'd like for the first question to be from Robbie, if that's okay. It's been a while. You're gonna defer. You're gonna cede your time.
With the same question. Quarterback.
Okay.
Who's gonna start at quarterback?
Okay. Again, I think obviously we've had a few weeks now where we've, from the injury, wanting to get AJ back and wanting to get him back 100%. Yeah, I think he's been available both weekends, so it's not an injury that keeps him from playing, but he was struggling in the performance. We identified that part of that was not feeling 100%, and we want to make sure the guy that we're putting out there is able to do what that position asks of it to do. And on the first week he was on pitch count. That was against Missouri last week. He came back and was able to practice the full week, but still seemed a little off. He's back and has had his 2 best days back to back here. So right now Ken's running with the ones. We'll continue to evaluate that day to day. We're encouraged with where AJ's headed, and probably something that we'll look at obviously day to day this week, but kind of reevaluate coming out of the bye to set a course for just some expectation too. I think internally that helps as well, where we have everyone on offense expects and knows what their role is going to be. Again, it's good to see AJ coming back. I feel good about where he's headed. Right now we're day to day on the decision for the game.
It felt like, on Saturday the kind of the run defense struggled more than usual. What was that, and what are you doing to kind of rectify that?
We're chasing the game down. We're chasing the play down, and I think that starts in how we teach and how we learn and how we train. And I don't want to you know, we have to, particularly with playing, you know, freshmen and sophomores, which is what we're doing. Obviously, Ethan Barr's experience, but I'm talking second level play in the box, which is where, you know, to me, and maybe I'm biased because that's where I kind of cut my teeth, but that's where we have to perform within structure to down the ball. Too many times we're losing our eyes off our key. Too many times we are we're not right early in the down. And so what happens when you're not right early in the down, you lose leverage on the gap that you're supposed to play. You get heavy or thick down the offensive lineman that you should be playing half a man on and playing with leverage into a window. And as soon as we get, you know, thick down the offensive line, we're getting swallowed up. And that's where you're seeing a lot of push, and that's where you're seeing spaces open up. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds because I don't think that's helpful to anybody, and I tend to do that sometimes. But in the end, we have to start the down better, our eyes in the right place. And if we do that, we can get to our technique faster than the opponent. When we are chasing the play down, we get behind gaps, we get heavy on linemen, we get blocked. And when we're blocked, it's not a good sight to see. A couple of the runs hit on pressures. This has been an issue this season. You know, we had a couple on pressures against UNLV, and when that happens, again, when you start to blitz, it's great that you can create, reset the line of scrimmage and maybe create negative yardage plays in the backfield. But you know, when you don't have, if it's a 6-man rush, if you don't have 6 people playing their technique, what happens is you've just sent your second level defense, and if one of those front 4 guys gets popped out of a gap, again, they're able to create lanes and create leverage. And so I see it as a combination of those two things, you know, tightening our eyes down pre-snap, anticipating and being good early in the snap, post-snap, so that we can get to our technique faster than the opponent, play on edges, and play within structure. When we blitz, every person in that front, every person that's rushing needs to own their responsibility, own their window, and stay in it. And when we do those things, we tend to have success against the run. When we don't, again, that's when we get issues like showed up on Saturday, which is really frustrating to us.
You know, just following up on something I asked on Saturday, you mentioned that when it comes to 4th downs that you use analytics, but that you always make that final decision in the game. So when it comes to those analytics, you know, how do you work that? How do those factor into the decision, and like what do you use versus just your perception of the game?
Yeah, so a lot of times they're basing their, when I say the analytics company that does our book, they base their decisions based off what they feel like the matchup is. I mean, it goes everything down to the weather. Okay, so you know, how good your field goal kicker is, whatever they rate those things out as, how they make those decisions. They tend to be hyper aggressive. You know, to them, it's almost like sometimes it feels like it's looking for a reason to punt or to kick rather than the default is to go. So there may be and I'm going to go a little nuanced here, Arya, because you asked, and so just know what you're delving into. There may be a situation. Let's say the book says that 4th and 6 is a go, and let's say we're at 4th and 4, and let's say our defense is playing really well in the game, in the flow of the game, and we feel like we can punt and pin them and get the ball back. I might say to Joe, get me to 1. This would be on 3rd down. You know, we're trying to sequence plays. Get me to 1 or get me to 2, and it's a go. Otherwise, in my mind, we're punting. Even though the book tells me that, you know, it's at 6, it's a go, and we're at 4, I'm playing off kind of what I feel like how the game flow's going. And it may also be something when you're, to me, behind. You know, the game book in the first half even is going to be aggressive. In those situations too, it's like, you know, I'd rather not give their offense the field position. I'd rather force them to drive the field, and so those are situations where we may determine to punt rather than to go. The other thing would be just momentum on the play. So let's say it's 3rd and 8, and let's say, or let's for the purpose of the example, it's 3rd and 4 again, and 6 is a go, and we determine to run the ball because we're at a go, and so we're going to try to, maybe they sub out, and we want to try to get a run. You guys following me right now, or is this too much? Is this helpful?
I gotcha.
Okay. So it's 3rd and 4, 6 is a go, we're on the go mark, we run the ball, and they get a TFL. To me, negative yardage plays sometimes will pull you out of a go mode just because you don't have the momentum and you feel like the momentum in the drive is shifted. And those are times too where, you know, we have the option too, if it's a go and we want to freeze them and try to see what they're in and see if we like it. This is what we did on Saturday, where we completed the 4th down and then fumbled it. But those are kind of that's the balance of what I'm doing and what I'm calculating. And it's not just me. I mean, we're having conversations about it, but we always know what the book tells us because that's been set very very specifically for our game. I believe it's my job then to determine where the details are and where I feel most comfortable.
And then having a punter like Matt Haball, how does that factor into your decisions there?
I have a lot of confidence that you know, we're not going to be a team, and I'd be interested to see. I can remember one time on a 4th and 1 on the negative side of the field going for it, and the one I remember was year 1 against Tennessee. Most times those go decisions are going to approach midfield unless you're late in the game and it's kind of a gotta have it. We've had a couple of those have been 4th and 4 and specifically against Missouri. I think we had one this past weekend that was also just approaching midfield. Most of the times when we're in negative yardage, it's going to be decision to punt. When you get into that awkward area from the 35 to the, you know, to the 50, you know, I think the book measures a touchback against the decision to go. So at the 35, you know, if we decide to go for it and they get possession back at the 35, if you know, the probability of converting that versus punting the ball into the end zone for a touchback, right? You're looking at the book's weighing that and saying, hey, you know, that's 15 yards or whatever. That you know, that's worth the risk. You know, for me, in my mind, I've got a really good punter and I got a really good punt operation, and so I'm a little more inclined to say let's pin them inside the 5 and force them to go the long hard way. And then when you get down tight, you know, inside the 5-yard line, you know, what does 3 points mean versus 90 whatever yards in return? And I think you go back on that one to the decision against South Carolina in year 1, where it's, you know that was an end of game situation, but you know, I think we were at 4th and 7. We were inside I think inside the 15, and we chose to take a field goal to go to 6, you know, to defend the full field on the 2-minute return. It didn't work out, but there's an argument there to be made on a go because, again, you're changing the mentality of the offense in the return possession, but you're also giving them a little more field to have to navigate.
Cam Johnson got a lot more into the game on Saturday. You know, is that something that you're planning to maybe have his role expand as the season goes on?
So we'd love for all the freshmen to expand their roles because that means they're developing. I think Cam is. You know, he's flashed at times for us this season. We think he's got a great like foundational skill set. You were also, you know, JB was a little banged up and kind of there were times where he wasn't available, and that would also increase the snaps. But we're looking for ways to get Cam involved, and that includes creating personnel groupings for him and so forth.
What do you make of Carson Beck?
Good player. You know, I don't think that they've fallen off much. You know, he's interesting because he's you know, they've done a great job in the air. He's obviously got some weapons. I think he's got arm talent. I think that he's also a good athlete, and that's not necessarily how they feature him, but he's got the ability to escape a rush and to do damage with his legs too. He's not afraid to take risks. He's not afraid to put the ball into tight windows, and he's developed chemistry, obviously, particularly with the tight end. So I've been impressed with him, and obviously he's going to present challenges on Saturday.
Having so many wide receivers that have different skill sets, whether it's smaller guys like Junior or Jaden versus like London versus Will Shepherd, how do you determine when and where to use all of those receivers and who to have on the field, at any given time?
Well, you try to design around the skill sets. I think I've said this. I'd like to see Jaden McGowan get a little more involved in the passing game, just because I think he's shown flashes of explosive play. Obviously, he's great running the ball, and there's creative ways we can use him. But I also believe that he can be, for some of our design shots, a great downfield threat. And then also on the third mediums, and again, this is where we're having trouble. I didn't think it wasn't, we did a really nice job in operation on Saturday offensively in a hostile environment. And we were in a lot of manageable third downs. And we have to do a better job in our design of creating space. There wasn't a lot of space on that field, so when you watch it, we're running covered, and I think Jaden can be a great asset to our offense, and if we can get him a matchup in space, he's got the ability to make somebody miss and to have catch and run potential too. And I think in down and distances where you're going to see man-to-man, that's an opportunity for us to use him as a weapon there. Obviously, we feel like there's, Shep continues to be a matchup issue in the tight spaces of the field. He's a great third down weapon as a big target. He had the explosive play in the field where he does a great job staying in bounds. There's a lot of skills there. London Humphreys as a deep shot threat, and a guy that really has developed as a vertical route runner. We love having him back and involved, and I'm excited to watch him on Saturday. Junior Sherrill has stepped up, and I think Junior's another guy who has shown a knack for getting open down the field. He had the long catch that got us to the 4, had the touchdown the week prior. I mean, there's some really cool things showing up there with some of the young players. And then Quincy Skinner, I believe to be a really great catch and run threat. One of the things that makes Quincy so hard is he's big and strong, and he's fast. And so if he can get the ball in space, he's got the ability to break tackles in space and to create yards after contact. And there are other guys too. Again, this is a unit that we really like. We think there's depth there, and like you point out, there's skill sets that we need to, in the design phase, do the best we can to position them for success. And we're I think able to distribute the ball, and Ken's done a nice job, and obviously AJ can throw it too. But if we can get first downs and extend drives, we're going to open up opportunities to be creative and get these guys the ball. What's happened to us is when we're 3 and out, 4 and out, and we're not in rhythm. I think we played 53 snaps or something like that on Saturday. That's not enough offense, and the more snaps we play, obviously, the more we can get those guys involved.
Speaking of London, what's his injury status right now?
He's back at practice. I don't know that he's 100%, but he's aiming to be a go, and I know excited to be back out there. And he's a guy that's going to take full advantage of the bye week next week. But I know he wants to be out there with us.
Anything else?
You mentioned earlier today about the frustration of how the season's been going on, and obviously the biggest challenge at #1 team in the country. So what's the message been to the team in the locker room at practice, trying to get the season back on track at the start?
I think it starts with acknowledging everyone's, frustration. I mean, we're all competitive and prideful, and we have a great design for this season. And our expectations internally were really high, and we've fallen short. And I think you can look at the season and say, we won a couple games early, and they weren't perfect, and they weren't pretty necessarily, but we won them. And then we went on a 3-game stretch where we turned the ball over 9 times, 4 of which went for touchdown, and we just got jarred out of any sense of rhythm. And what I see right now is, like almost like there was a 3-week stretch where all we could talk about was ball security and decisions with the ball, and I think we've gotten back on track that way. I can't say enough, been really impressed with Ken Seals, and I felt like in review of the film, our offensive line did a nice job in protection. I think a couple times they were able to just compress the pocket early and get him on the move. But I thought on the move he made good decisions, including throwing the ball away so we could punt it. So now as we've gotten through that stretch and we're starting to play with a little more identity and a little more consistency that way, we're trying to make up ground on some of those margins that when we started the season we said were razor thin. So that would be, again, conversion down operation. That would be, performance in special teams units. That would be creating turnovers on defense, and obviously playing within structure defensively. So I say all that to say to you that there's not some, we can acknowledge frustration and say, hey, this is, as competitors, here's how we feel. And yet, to me, what's courageous is being able to take action through your feelings. And so it's this willingness to acknowledge that here are the things that we can focus on to fix and to improve. Can we attack this through those emotions to make sure that we are taking ground on becoming a better team? And that's pretty consistent to the message that they've been hearing now for 2.5 years. And I thought we had a really nice day today, and I saw a team that was out ready to compete, ready to find another level, ready to be better. And obviously the challenge this week against Georgia is real. I mean, they're a good team, but we've yet to play our best football, and I'd like to see us put together a week that allows us to do that on Saturday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.